Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Andrew Missick. I'm running for HD18 for Texas State Representative. In this video, I want to talk about UFOs. And I have other videos of UFOs. My father, the founding pastor of King of Saints Tabernacle, church I pastor here in Cleveland, Texas, I think when he was like 8 years old or so, he saw, or maybe a little older, maybe over 10. I'm not sure the exact age. You go back and figure it out. But anyway, he saw UFOs like flying saucers flying in a formation up in Michigan. And he had very distinctive and clear memories of this. He's not somebody who's inclined to believe in UFOs or to give them much thought for that matter. So I think it's very interesting. And I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the Bible. And I've got a doctorate and I'm a historian. And to me, what I'm interested in is facts. And I believe that the UFO or UAP, UFOs, unidentified flying object, UAP, that's what they're using now, unidentified aerial phenomenon. These are real events. They try to dismiss them, and I'm sure that, say you have let's take 100% of UFO sightings, right? I would say that, some of them, like 25, 30%, are, somebody's crazy, hallucinating, natural phenomena that's mistaken for, flying saucer or whatnot. But there are genuine phenomenon. And I remember back in the 90s, the Air Force, they put out a publication. I thought it was kind of funny. And like I said, I'm not really someone I'm open to wherever the evidence and facts lead, but I'm not, wide-eyed true believer either. But I remember, you hear about Roswell, and I want to see the evidence, and it's all hearsay. Someone told me that somebody else told them that. And if it's second, third, fourth person, I'm not interested. That's just, it's ridiculous. But what the Air Force is doing in the 90s, they had this publication. They said, those bodies you saw, those were crash test dummies. And it's like, when I was looking at this, and it reminded me of the statement by Shakespeare, surely thou dost protest too much. By saying that there were these crash test dummies, they're conceding that people had seen bodies that were taken to be alien bodies. The reason why the bodies were smaller is because our crash test dummies weren't full size, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that made me wonder. Honestly, that made me wonder. So, this past year, it's really sad. My cousin Lois passed away. And she's an elderly woman. She's almost 100 years old. She's starting to have issues. She's suffering in her body from old age. She's a godly woman. She's a good woman. She's very family-oriented. I always kept in touch with that. I deeply appreciate her. And when she passed away, it was a loss. She's in a better place. She's suffering in her body. So I'm sorry that she passed away. But I took comfort that she's in heaven. And I'm also glad that she's not suffering as she was. She's starting to develop very serious physical problems due to old age. So my brother Josiah and I drove to California. Josiah wanted to do this big road trip, and we went through Roswell, New Mexico, and it's interesting. It happened to be the 75th anniversary of the UFO crash in Roswell. And while I was there, they have all these museums, and we went to this. It looked like it used to be a theater. They just changed it to a museum of ufology, whatever. And they had an original press release from the Military Public Affairs Office. And I was thinking about it, I was reading about it, it's like, we have found a UFO. And it's like the military issue. I've been in the military for 30 years. I've been to 2 combat deployments, and I served in the border mission for 3 years, and I had all kinds of military training and drills. Most of my military career, even though I was activated several times, most of my military careers in the Army Reserves, National Guard, so I was on a reserve status, active reserve. So I'm familiar with the public affairs office of the military, and these are professionals. This isn't like tabloid journalism. This is not like the National Enquirer. This is the Public Affairs Office of the military that issued a press report saying that a crashed UFO, a flying saucer, had crashed on somebody's ranch. And we need to understand when this happened, this was a post-atomic bomb age, 1947. It was the Army Air Force at that time. It was just a few months before the Army Air Force became the United States Air Force, became its own branch. But at that time, it's still the Army Air Force. And people had automobiles. They would go to movies. They're familiar with science fiction. I mean, War of the Worlds had already been out for, I'm not sure when that book was written, or before the turn of the century, by H.G. Wells. So it's over 60 years old. You had John Carter Mars, Flash Gordon. People were familiar with the concept. I mean, actually, before that, people thought there was an astronomer who was looking at Mars, and he thought he was seeing irrigated canals. So people believe that scientists were saying that there was life on Mars. The scientist thought he saw canals on Mars. So these were people familiar with the concept of UFOs. We detonated an atomic weapon in Japan. And, they have planes and cars and tanks. And these are sophisticated people. In a sense, 1947, maybe not as advanced, sophisticated as we are today, but sophisticated nonetheless. They could tell the difference between a kite, which is what they said, people could tell the difference between a UFO and aluminum foil, balsa wood, and Scotch tape. People were not then, the ranchers saw it. If it was a weather balloon or aluminum foil kite, he would have known that. Like I said, they had the cinema already. They had talkies. They had, I believe, motion pictures already been out. So since the Army issued that they had recovered the remains of a crashed UFO, that was the original report. And then a day later, they retracted the story and they covered it up. And I'm not saying there's people that try to reconstruct what happened. A lot of that's speculation. Some of that might not be factual, but it does seem that this was a UFO, a flying saucer, and they took it. I guess they sent it down to at first to Texas, to Fort Worth, and then the cover up took off after that. So now, since when I went to Roswell, New Mexico, it's kind of iffy. It's like, well, maybe something happened, maybe it didn't. But after seeing those details I hadn't seen before, I'm convinced that that was an actual incident of a crashed UFO. So what are these things? Let's just concede for a moment that this is a real phenomenon. Well, they could be some form of life from this planet we're not aware of. They could be, the most likely explanation is these are aliens from another planet, another solar system in this galaxy, perhaps another galaxy, who knows. That's the most logical explanation. These are crafts from a highly advanced technological civilization. This could be a spiritual phenomenon. These could be angelic or demonic beings. It's like, well, what do they need to... We don't understand the entire nature of the spiritual or the demonic and angelic realms. Anyway, maybe they do produce these physical objects or need them or use them for some purpose. We don't know. I'm just saying that's a possibility. Also, interdimensional beings, that there's another dimension and these people are interacting with our dimension from another dimension. So those are the possibilities. Most likely explanations are either this is aliens from another world, or this is a spiritual phenomenon. This is angelic or demonic manifestation. So Tucker did an interview with a congressman about this, and he had some very salient points that I want to mention. And it's like, he says that there are reports of similar incidences to Roswell a few decades before Roswell, or maybe a couple of years or years before. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that Roswell was the first incident of a crashed UFO being recovered by the United States military. Let's just take that for sake of argument, which is probably likely. There might have been another incident before then, but most likely this was it, right? That means for 75 years, this vast conspiracy cover-up has been going on. And very expensive, very time-consuming, a lot of energy to keep this from the public. And Tucker Carlson mentioned that people have been hurt. And here, I remember I was talking to this friend of mine, and she's up in, what was it, Huffman up the road? And she remembered when we had this somewhere between Huffman and New Caney on a country road back in the mid-90s. Sorry, this is the mid-80s, actually. There's a woman, a friend of hers, and her son in a car going down a country road, and all of a sudden they saw UFO. She thought this was a sign of the last days, the coming of Jesus Christ. She thought this was a spiritual phenomenon. It was some kind of a diamond-shaped UFO that was splitting out flames. And the car got so hot, she put her hand on the dashboard and it left a handprint. She got out, and there's Chinooks, these Army helicopters that have 2 propellers, right? And they were flying around, and it took off, and it left with this apparently a military escort. So this poor woman had serious burns, and she had to go to the hospital. It took a long, lengthy recovery. She was encouraged, she reported what happened, and she was encouraged to, take legal action. The military said there's no military craft there. This event never happened. That poor woman suffered physically, and I think she had she died younger than she should have because the effects of that incident. She died, and I think that if this was part of a government cover-up, I think that she should be her son should receive an inheritance or compensation of the government killing her mom, killing his mother for what happened. So yes, people have suffered and died because of this. And this woman was telling me, it's very interesting. She said, this friend of mine, she says, driving out there, she had never seen it, because we see it all the time. We see construction, in a road. It takes like years sometimes. I was talking to a friend about, they're building a new overpass or whatever. It takes, 2 or 3 years for them to do it. But they tore up that road and repaved it in, one night. It's like, I've never seen it. She was there, she saw it, and there's other witnesses in this area who heard the helicopters. So this is something that really happened. This isn't just something that's made up. So Tucker Carlson says something I thought was very, very interesting. First off, he's mentioning that people have been injured and died through this phenomenon. I know of 2 witnesses of that event, that son, that young man, he's probably my age now. Actually, he's probably around his late 40s. He's still alive, and he'll tell you what happened. He's eyewitness to this thing. So this isn't just something that was made up. This is something that's an actual incident. And this woman suffered. She suffered, and she died prematurely. So people are dying. That's one incident we know of. Who knows how many are totally covered up? So what Tucker Carlson said is okay, they're spending all this money, these resources to cover these things up. He says, at this time we know that UFOs have been recovered, even the bodies of the pilots. So what's going on? Why the big cover-up? The most common explanation is why the government's covering up is because they don't want to start a mass panic. It's like, if we put this information out there, there'll be a mass panic. And Tucker says, I'm calling BS on that, because all the government does is try to create mass panic. Look at COVID. Look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Look at Al Gore. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says Greta Thunberg. We're all going to die in less than 10 years. The whole planet, in just a few years, less than 10 years, we're going to be in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. That they're telling we have impending civilization collapse, and planet Earth is going to be hostile to human life, and we're all going to die. And I've talked to people about this, how the government wants to have people, in fear all the time. COVID's going to get you. You're going to die from COVID. Now, COVID was a serious thing. I got very sick from COVID. My father passed away. But still, they use that. To incite fear among the people so they could control them. Fear of terrorism. They strip all our rights because of, you have to be electronically strip searched to get on a plane. Why? Because you don't get the terrorists to get you, do you? We have to have the Patriot Act where we could, you don't have a constitutional liberties anymore. Why? Because the terrorists are out to get you. So, with COVID, terrorism, and look, I'm very strongly opposed to radical Islam. I hate it. I served in combat, and I'm proud of my military service. I served in combat twice, fighting against terrorism. So I'm not trying to minimize. I'm just saying that they want us to, what are they doing after 9/11? They're putting the different threat level by colors to scare the hell out of people. That's what the government wants to do. And with COVID, you got to get your shots. You better get your vaccines, or you're going to die. So Tucker's absolutely correct that this isn't about fear of mass hysteria, and it's not about religion. And was it Louis Alismondo, whatever his name is, that the one that came out, one of the people, these kind of whistleblowers, and he goes, well, the reason why there's this cover up, he's blaming it on religion. It's like, oh really? So the government's concerned about people's religious beliefs, really? Is that why we have 60 million abortions since Roe versus Wade? Is that why we have Drag Queen Story Hour, where we have a 30-year-old man grinding his genitals in a 4-year-old girl's face at the public library? Is that because they're really concerned about our religious beliefs and our feelings, how we react to those things? The whole transgender movement, so-called gay marriage, these things are coming down from the powers that be. Does that show what did they do? They had this woman that on religious grounds, once they legalized gay marriage, on religious grounds, she did not want to sign a marriage certificate, and they arrested her. They put her in chains because, you can't say that you have religious convictions where you can't participate in these rituals. Or like the cakes, you got to bake this guy a cake. They travel all across the country looking for that one baker who doesn't want to do a gay cake. So I don't believe that at all. Our government is hostile to Christianity, or to religion in general, but Christianity specifically. Actually, religion's okay for them. It's evangelical Christianity, conservative Catholicism. They can't abide it, and they're waging war against religious believers, the federal government, every day. So that's, if the UFO thing could actually help them diminish or harm religion, they'd probably use that. So, because that's what they want to do. It's pretty obvious, especially since it's been going on for decades. Look at the ACLU, was it Southern Poverty, whatever, Union. These powerful left-wing organizations and our federal government hostile to Bible-believing Christians. So that cannot be it. Don't just give me a break. So what's going on? And Tucker, he says, well, maybe there's something criminal going on here. There's something that they're doing, these people have done without the people's consent, that are not in humanity's best interest. And he posited he put forth the theory that maybe people in our government, the deep state, the permanent bureaucracy, have been in communication with these intelligences behind the UFOs. And perhaps they've formed some kind of a treaty or agreement with them. So they're not. So their motivations, according to Tucker, are not for the best of humanity. That there's some corrupt or criminal action that they've engaged in. That this conspiracy is designed. Because isn't that what it is? Where you have a genuine phenomenon, they're trying to dismiss it, and they're willing to let people suffer and die rather than the truth come out. And how is the existence of extraterrestrial life on other planets affect my religious beliefs? I don't know. I need to know what the facts are before I can access them. I guess I might have to adopt my beliefs, but I want to know what reality is. I want to know what the facts are. I'm confident in my beliefs in the Bible and Jesus Christ, and I'm not afraid of the facts. I'm not afraid of truth. Jesus himself said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." So if there's factual information, these are actual physical objects that are in warehouses, and if they have the remains of these dead pilots, they're not. I don't believe by withholding this information they're acting in the best interests of humanity. And this would be the most pivotal, one of the most pivotal historical events in human history, that we made contact with, life from beyond the stars or whatever, from another solar system, or another dimension, or just, concrete, if it's spiritual, that, verified empirical evidence of this, whatever phenomenon this is. To withhold this from the public, and from humanity, from the world as a whole, is wrong. And the truth needs to come out. We need to make sure the truth comes out. And the other thing is that this isn't just an American phenomenon. This is a global phenomenon, because there's been similar incidences in Russia, in Chile. And one of the things that really got me, I'm going to close with this, but this is an important subject, is, of course, this is from my brother Josiah. This came out where they had the cockpit recorder, the flight recorder on a Navy fighter jet coming in contact with the Tic Tac UFOs. And these are cylindrical UFOs or UAPs that are shaped like, they describe them as like Tic Tacs, the candy, the Tic Tac, but they're the size of a school bus. They're about 30 feet long. And to move at high rates, suddenly move at high rates of speed and actually take sharp turns, like suddenly turn at a 90-degree angle. Things that we have way beyond the forms of technology that we have today. So they released this video. It's released. And I was talking to my brother about it. It's like, look, this is a smudge. This is a grainy image. It's fuzzy. This is trash. I can't, I just see a smudge on there. But you had the audio too. And, of course, they're probably tampering with the footage. They don't want the public to see a clear image of what they're seeing. But my brother's saying, well, is this a real video? Even though, yes, granted, the footage is garbage, but is it real or is it not? And it's like, well, this is actually, I can't deny this is actual recording from, the flight data recorder from a Navy fighter jet. It really is. So even though the footage is trash, it's genuine. And then you have the pilots. So the pilots describe what they saw. And you can't have somebody as a Navy pilot that can't distinguish between reality and fantasy, right? And a lot of Navy pilots go out to become airline pilots. And they have to do a lot of psychological tests and you have to have a high level of intelligence to pilot this aircraft. So these aren't, weirdos. These aren't, inbred pinheads from the Appalachians. Look, I've lived in Tennessee. I'm not trying to demean those people at all. I'm just saying, just for, these aren't, people with mental ailments, right? These are Navy pilots, the best of the best of the best. This is like Top Gun, people have to compete to be the best pilots in the Navy. And one of these pilots is interacting with a UFO, and he's talking to other pilots about it, the other pilot in the jet with him, and interacting with other pilots. It's all recorded. So you have what he saw, what the other pilots saw. You can have the recording of them conversing about this, and you can see the footage. Even though the footage is low quality, terrible resolution, garbage footage, it's real. So here is an intelligent person that's verified by multiple witnesses, by audio recordings and by visual recordings. So we know this is a genuine event. So it's not speculative, it's not theoretical. This is something that's actually happened. And the public has a right to know. And we need to have full disclosure. Or why can't we even have semi-disclosure, right? Roswell was 75 years ago. You know what it should do? Just get it over with. Just rip off the Band-Aid, type thing. Just let people know the facts. Hard, cold, empirical, scientific facts. And maybe the government, these people hide the information. Maybe they don't have a full picture of exactly what's going on, but they have a general idea at the very least. And that needs to, I think that we as the human species have a right to know. And I'm glad that we have Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a conservative Christian. He's religiously observant. But, this is an interesting topic that we need to talk about. And who is it? Matt Walsh versus, what is the guy's? Knowles. Kevin Knowles, whatever his name is. And Matt Walsh is like, I believe that UFOs exist. That's what Matt Walsh is saying. And Mr. Knowles is like, no, this is against the Bible. The Bible says there's no UFOs. The Bible doesn't say there's no such thing as UFOs. That's your own idea you're trying to impose on the scriptures. And I lean toward Matt Walsh's position. And Matt Walsh is also, he's traditional Catholic, but he's also a conservative Catholic Christian. So let's just try to get the truth out there and put factual information. We can handle it. I think people can handle it. And like Tucker said, this is not altruistic. The reason why they're withholding this information. This is most likely, I think Tucker's correct. This is criminal in nature. What have these people done? What are they covering up, and why are they covering up, and how can we hold these people accountable? Of course, a lot of people, this is a multi-generational thing, so a lot of the people who have done this or behind this or involved in this have passed away. But this has gone on for way too long. Like I said, Roswell may not be the first phenomenon, but most likely, let's just say for sake of argument, maybe it was, probably was. So this has been going on for 75 years, and it's now time for the truth to come out as soon as possible. So we need to have our political leaders. Plus, these organizations like the FBI, the CIA, they're not mandated. They're not constitutional. Not mandated in the Constitution. They shouldn't even exist. And we should hold these people accountable to the people. The people. They should not be above the law and just do their own thing, what they want to do, and not be accountable to the American people, or not be accountable to the Constitution. They're not right now. We need to change that, hold these people responsible, and put the truth out. Like Jesus Christ said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So the truth is out there. Let's reveal the truth so that we can have freedom and move into the future.